you see my screen? Hello.
Yes, we can.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
All right. Thank you. All right. So Adekunle, EBITANMI, and for this KD session, I'll be discussing designing a better UI, and the scope of that is common mistakes to avoid as a designer. Well, this is not just talking about designers as well, but mostly related to designers. So let's just go ahead. So before I start, I will start with this quote. Can everyone hear me? Victoria, please confirm. Hello.
Yes, you can hear.
Okay. And your daily or is it? Can you hear me? I think you're trying to say something.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. So, as I said I would like to start on this quote that says, it's not about technology, it's about making technology usable, useful, and enjoyable. So, this famous quote is from Don Norman's book, Design of Everyday Things. So, what this is saying is that as much as we want our designs to look beautiful, some people will prefer that the more complex it is, the more beautiful it is. So Don Norman is telling us here that it's not about how the technology looks or how beautiful it looks or how paparazzi, as we can say, it looks. It's how usable, it's how useful it is, and it's how enjoyable it is. So what this means is that is the product useful based on the design? Is it enjoyable? Can users come back to it? Many of us have seen some programs or some products that have come, but because of the complexity of the products, they've not been able to thrive. And as simple as usability is, that's why we see some of the products are trending like Child Deck, a lot of all these apps that are very seamless to use, no stress. So that is what Don Norman is telling us. And for the sake of this presentation now, I'll be looking at a few outline. Looking at the introduction and in the what are the definition of a UI design, the definition of a better UI design. Then we'll also be looking at some of the mistakes, common mistakes, and how and the suggestions to correct this UI design. The mistakes about this UI design. They will be concluding and having some question and answer session. So please, let's try to follow through. Thank you. All right, so we'll be looking at introduction. We said, what is UI design? What is a better UI design? So you automatically, when we know something is better, that means there are worse version of such a design. So we said a UI design, which is an acronym of user interface design, is the process of creating a visually appealing and interactive interface between users and the product. So a user interface design is just like the media man, the middleman between the user and the product. So the interface, if the interface does not correlate or the thing does not resonate with the users, or they are not finding it very, very beautiful to use or very easy to use, that means the interface between those users that want to use it and the product, that will not sell the product. So we say user interface design is something that creates visual. First, it should be visually appealing. It should be interactive enough with the users so that they can come back to it. So it's not enough to just use a product and they are not able to come back to it. They should be able to come back to it. That means the interactivity for them, with them and those products should be very, very easy. then we have a better UI design. So when, like I said, if something is better, that means it can be worse. He said is one that is intuitive, visually appealing, and enhances users' ability to interact with the product effortlessly and efficiently. I emphasize on the word effortlessly and efficiently because some of the times some products are created because they want to show their level of design prowess. They want to show how much they are good in creating a product. But sometimes you've seen how difficult it is just to get some simple tasks done. Imagine you want to just onboard now and you're going through about 5 to 6 steps. How something that should not cost less than maybe 2 or 3 user journeys. But because people want to show their level of creativity, making seamless effort just become hard. Do you get? So that's what we call a better UI design is something that makes it very, very easy to communicate with. You don't have to stress your users because you want to show how beautiful or how good you are talking about design. Do we get? So that's that. Then we'll also be looking at some mistakes in UI designs and how to correct them. So I have about 4 or 5 lists here. So I'm just going to be running through them now. So the first point I have here is overuse of effects. And I try to use something more relatable so that everybody can follow through. So if you look at this now, we said using effects are very, very good because they help create hierarchy, depth, and different states and can beautify design. As we all know, effects beautify design. We use sometimes shadow, we use outline, we use layer blur, we use background blur, we use a lot of all of these filters just to beautify our design. But once we don't use this effect to the right proportion, that causes a form of overuse or underused. So it affects the experience and appearance of the interface. Take for example now, and I'll be asking us some question here. Take for example, if you look at this Beacom, I just immediately created this Beacom academic page. I modified it just to make sure we have an understanding of what we are saying. Look at this Beacom academic page. Let me zoom. Victoria, can you hear me? I need to. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to go off my slideshow so I can zoom this screen.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So yeah. So if you look at this page now, do you notice anything wrong? If you do, just look at this hero section of this page now. What do you think is the effect? Anyone? Let's try to make it as interactive as possible. Should I call names? Sani, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
I'll call you now. All right, so look at this hero section. What do you think is wrong with the hero section? Look at the buttons, look at the tab. Does anything feel off? Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes, I can hear you. I think the button there, I don't think they are clickable, or are they?
all right. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much, Sani. So the truth about it, if you look at the buttons, though it's a design, so they are not clickable. You're right about that. But the emphasis I want to make here is that the shadow on the primary button is too much. So in a way, it creates a form of distraction. That's why we said overuse of effect. Using shadow is an effect, but when we overuse them, it creates a form of distraction and affects the overall experience of that design. Somebody else might not notice it, but as a designer or somebody who is into tech can easily spot this, and that's like a negative mark to the product. Do you understand? When you compare that to what I have here, sorry, that's the second option here. So that's the suggestion. So we are not saying using effects is bad, but when you overuse them, as you can see here, people will have argued that I don't even use effect, whereas I just reduced the opacity, reduced the blur and everything. So it looks like I didn't even use at all. That's what we are saying. it's not enough to just say to use effect. You should use the right proportion so that it doesn't affect the usability of that product. That's why we're saying using too much of effect on a design is one of the mistakes, and that we should avoid that. Are you guys with me? Hello?
Yes, we are with you. I'm also with you, but I didn't really. Okay, okay. I didn't really get the difference, but I think now I do. Looking at both of them, looking at it
Okay.
individually, I didn't get the difference.
But
For me, it
do
was
you
just
understand it
okay.
now?
Yeah, yeah, I get it now. I understand it.
All right, thank you so much. Okay. Then, oh, sorry, my screen is loading. Then the second point, the second mistake you should avoid is too many decorative elements. Like I mentioned, as designers, we tend to show our design power because we want people to know we can do this, we can do that. But in most cases, that's not how it works. Like Don Norman said, it's what really matters is how people can use it, how simple it is. That's one of the things we should always consider whenever it comes to design. And we usually talk about this a lot as one of the principles of design. It's called simplicity. The more simple it is, the more easy it is to use because it automatically solves people's problem almost instantly. You don't have to be clicking too much of buttons. You might have to be looking at a lot of elements that causes some form of distraction. And also, I have this screen here. If you look at this first is this sign in or login screen I created? If you look at it, the first one, there are some other elements. There are two circles and two triangles there compared to the second one that does not have anything, because the main idea of this screen is to help users to sign in. So why should I distract them with another thing? I'm just using this as an example. In some cases, you might just see people putting a lot of images, putting a lot of other elements, putting a lot of abstract. All of those things are not necessary. It doesn't mean having, because the main idea is just for users to sign in. Okay, they know they want to sign in. What should they see? They should see the login. They should see the where to input fields of the credentials that they need to, whether it's a username, whether it's an email, like whatever it is, that is the most important thing on that screen. Do we get? So it's not, we should understand that too many decorative elements like shapes, it is good, but occasionally they are not necessary on every design screen. Do you understand? So if you look at the first one now, the circles, the shapes, they are not really necessary because they are not adding to the, as a matter of fact, they're even distracting the design. That's why I call it mistake. Then the correction is the one that does not have anything. As simple as that is, it could affect the usability of a product, because for me personally, I don't really like stress. If I see anything that distracts me, I tend to like give that thing a negative mark. Do you understand? And that's one of the things as designers we should look out for whenever we are creating a product or creating anything. Do you understand? All right. Then the third point here is using two visible shadows. Similar to my first point, the first one was to using overusing of effect, and I mentioned earlier that effects are not limited to just shadows, outline, blur, filters. There are a lot of that. So I said shadows create a depth of element, but when the appropriate value of the shadow is not used, it distracts the UI. So occasionally people try to use outline, and we'll get to that outline as well. But I believe using a soft outline is one of the best ways we can actually do this better. So if you look at this screen now, on the dashboard of this mobile app that I created, you can see the shadow under the 200,000 naira. It's too much. Abi, Victoria, you don't agree that it's too much?
It's not too much.
If you are you sure it's too much? Check it very well.
The problem is, since I'm not a UI designer, I find it difficult to see differences. Okay, so
Thank you.
let's
Well,
say it's too much.
obviously,
It's too much.
okay, it's too much. No, if you look at it compared to the second one, you can notice it is too much. So I don't want to go out of my slideshow. I've shown you the correction is telling you we can use an outline, and not just an outline, a softer outline. because we want to see, we don't want to create any form of distraction in our design. That's why we try to keep it as simple as possible. That's one thing about design. If it is not simple, I don't know, complexity. I don't know. I've heard it. I've heard it somewhere that said when you give people too much choice, they tend to choose wrongly. Do you get once you keep it simple so that they can understand the message you're trying to pass and how to use it, and that makes it a better design. Do you understand? So that's that about using too much shadows. We should understand that using too much shadows can affect the aesthetic of the design, and we should be careful of that too. Thank you. So then the fourth point is using too strong outlines. All right, so shadows are great, just like we mentioned, but we should use the right proportion and not too much so that it doesn't affect the thing. But on the other hand, people try to use outline for their design. And just like I mentioned in my previous point, people use outline, sometimes it makes it very strong. If you look at this design I'm showing you now, the mistake is if you look at the services section, you can see the outline are black and a bit thick. Can anyone confirm that? Sunny, are you there? Is it too thick or
Yes, I
okay?
am. I'm
Is it
here.
thick?
Yeah, the one on the left is too thick, while the one
Okay,
on the
then
right is.
exactly. That is what we are trying to do. Using too strong outlines can also cause distraction in design. So we should try to use um, soft outline if, because sometimes we might need to, but if not, you can just take it out. If it's not necessary, you can just take it out. But if you need to use it, make sure it is soft enough and does not create a form of distraction in the design. Do you get? And oh, okay, that was the fourth one. This is the fifth one. Then the fifth one is excessive or insufficient spacing in design. We all know okay, as we call it in design, we call it white space. We all know the beautiful effect of spacing in design. In a way, it creates hierarchy, making content, and that's the making content easy to read. But when we use excessive or insufficient spacing in design, it can disrupt our visual hierarchy, making content harder to read and navigate because you'll be struggling with, is this one attached to this? Is this one away from this? That's not what we want to do. So using the right proportion of space is also very important in design. And I have an example here. If you look at the first login screen I have here, look at the space between the login text and the credentials, where you put the credentials. I think it's too much. Can anyone agree with me on that? Hello, let's talk now. Are we cold? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So you agree with me that the spacing on this design are too much compared to the second one, which is the spacing are too less. They are very close to each other. Like there is no breathing room for this, and there's something we call I forgot the name. There's no breathing. There are all the texts are just clustered. Look at the login button and the password. They're very clustered together, and that's not how our design should look like. Then the final one, which is the correct one, you can see the right spacing. Everything is not clustered together. People can see clearly this is not attached to this, this is not attached to this. That's why we say using excessive or insufficient spacing can also be a mistake, and we should avoid that whenever we are creating our designs. Do you understand? Okay.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, we'll be concluding on this. I want to conclude with this quote. It says, "The less, the better," and as simple as that, this does not even need any explanation. The less you have, the less the better. Some of us will agree that even when we are writing our exams, the less your lecturer teaches you, the better for you because you don't have to read more. Your lecturer teaches you about maybe 2 to 3 topics. Now you know during the exam time you should read just 2 to 3 topics. Unlike when he teaches you about 10 to 12 topics, you'll be where is the question coming from? Do we get? That's what we should do whenever it comes to design. It's not as if we should not put the important things, but the important things are the best thing we can put. But any other thing that can distract the design, we should do away from it. And that way our design can really resonate with our users and they can use it the way we want and probably come back for it. And that's one of the things we should look out for as a designer. So thank you everyone for taking your time to be here this session. I hope I did not bore you, and I have some questions at the end of this session. But if you have any other questions from me, I will be willing to answer your questions. So thank you. So Victoria, can I ask my questions now?
Yeah, but let's find out first. Please, do we have questions for our facilitator today? Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for asking questions in between. It had a way of keeping us focused. All right. Please, do we have questions?